The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on March 24th, 2026.
Welcome to Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. Now here's your host, the president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, Pam Toompop. Good morning, Pam. How are you today?
Good morning, Gary. Well, I am waking up to some more rain up in Pukalani. I thought this was going to subside a little bit. How are you this morning?
Well, down here it's not that bad. It's overcast, but it looks like it might rain. I know Jack told me this morning driving in from Kihei on Veterans Highway it poured so much it was like a whiteout. He almost had to stop driving.
Yeah, that is very scary. Yeah. Well, I did look it up, and it looks like we've got a flash flood warning issued today. It's starting at 3:54 a.m. and it says until 7:30 a.m. this morning. But they are talking about locations that might experience flash flooding, include Kipahulu, Kaupo, Keanai, Nahiko, Kula, Makawao, so I'll ask Yuki about this in a minute, Pukalani, Keokea, Huelo, Hana, Haile Haiku, Pauela, Haleakala National Park, and then even areas on Big Island. Yeah. So very interesting to see. Again, the weather changes on a dime, and I just want to remind everybody, the best place to look if you're not getting the MEMA alerts, and we highly encourage the Maui Emergency Management Alert, which we call MEMA. If you're not getting those on your phone, we highly encourage you to register to get them on your phone. We've learned this from COVID and beyond. It's really important to be getting accurate information and timely information. Again, we watched the news last night and thought things were going to subside. There's also still some, for longer periods up until 6 p.m., there's a flood watch also. But what I'm talking about right now that I just read you was a flash flood warning. So there is still a flood watch issued today as well through 6 p.m. this evening. But get those alerts so that you can be aware. And, of course, AOI gives you great information throughout the day of what's happening as well. But we've seen so much flooding in Lahaina and all over the island. Of course, Wailuku and Eo Valley area. There's so many things going on. At the bottom of Haleakala Highway, there was pooling there that was pretty substantial yesterday. So be in the know. And Gary, we just want to say thank you for all that you do for the show today and always. You are a treasure, and we so appreciate you and being able to have you produce this show for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Yuki Lee is going to be on with us next, and we are so excited to have her here. You know her as the Vice Chair of the Maui County Council and Chair of the Budget, Finance, and Economic Development Committee. She has been doing an amazing job and has spent decades bridging the gap between government and the people she serves. She has listening sessions all the time. She's very accessible and has really built a reputation as an amazing leader who listens, shows up, and works to get the job done. So good morning, Yuki. How are you this morning up in Kula, and how's the weather up there?
Yeah, good morning. I'm surprised at this. I thought the weather was going to clear up. I was in Wailuku at the office yesterday, and it looked nice. Wasn't nice, but it was still cloudy, but no rain. Like what I'm seeing now in Kula, we're back to flash flood warning, it feels. It's pretty bad out here. But yeah. So I hope that everybody over the last 2 weekends, it was very challenging for upcountry. The weekend of the 21st, 2 weeks ago, it was worse. We had 44 inches of rain up here in Kula. It was, it was really bad. How was it in Pukalani, Pam?
Well, we had a lot of rain, not anywhere close to 44 inches, but it was bad. But we were very fortunate. I will encourage people to get a generator, whether it's gas or electric. The good news is that we were okay. We didn't lose any power at all, so we were just fine, which was good. So I was able to take calls and help others. We did have a generator here that was my daughter's generator, and she lives up in Kula, upper Kula. So of course they had power outage, had a power outage for several days, and then the road was blocked by a tree, so people could not get down, and she couldn't come down to get the generator for a while. But then they went and cut that tree. The tree was blocking the road, and they went and helped clear what they could, so that at least one lane was passable.
Thank you.
And
please thank her.
No, it was. I'll tell you, it was her. It was her boyfriend and his brother that went and did it. They're amazing people, and had the tools. They do ranching, and so they went down to help. But again, so many people went out to help and did everything they could to try and. We just want to thank all of our community members, everybody going out and doing their part on what they could do during this. Torrential storms for weeks now.
Yes. It's. Well, I always say Mother Nature wins, they guide us. So, we, like your daughter, we didn't have electricity on Friday. Friday it went out, and then came back on about 8:30 on Sunday night. Yeah. So we're grateful for that. And, you just adjust your life, right? We don't have a generator, so we better go out and buy one, be smart like your daughter. But you always appreciate, the things we take for granted when there's weather and, impacts like what we all experience. We had, and of course, because of, all of us, we rely on, surface water up country. And so we had people without water too. So that's really hard when you don't have water. Thank the water department for putting out the water buffaloes even before in planning for this for the storm. So they were out by the Kula Community Center right down the street from my house and had scattered it throughout the community so that the residents would have water in case. And yes, in case it did need. I heard from Ulupalakua that with their 1,000 head of cattle or livestock, that they were, getting nervous, not having access to water. So that got resolved. But that's the kind of, life situations that happen during these kinds of storms. I'm sure you heard about it too.
And we did. And we really have to thank everybody who staffed up the shelters, the county personnel who have been working tirelessly, HECO, who's been working tirelessly, all of our first responders who have been working tirelessly. It really takes an incredible team effort. And, I just, having driven last Friday with the Olawalo Fire Station groundbreaking, I got to see a lot of the flooding in Lahaina, and to the point where I was thinking, wow, thank goodness my car's a four-wheel drive, because it was still raining. And at the water levels I saw when I went out, I thought, I might be stuck out here, and I wasn't. Then yesterday, driving through just puddles near sort of the last street that crosses Haleakala Highway before you get to the stoplight, the flooding there. And I was laughing because it was bad when I went down, but on my way home, it was creating looked like big brown wings of water that as you drove through, the water rose up and over your car, which was kind of funny. But they had a police officer. They had at one point two, and then later on the way back, they had a police officer stationed right there. And I thought, boy, with all of this all the way across the island, everybody was spread thin, but everybody was working together, which was amazing.
Yes, it really. I drove through that Firebreak Road, I think it's called, but it was surprising how much water there was there. I've never seen it that way before. That's the first time I've seen it like that. Yeah. So in all of this, Pam, on the 30th of this month, which is Monday evening at 5:30, my office, we're pulling together a meeting for the community to come in at the Hannibal Tavares Community Center, 5:30. So we're putting an informational meeting together about the storm. And actually, the reason that I had pulled it together was so the upcountry residents impacted by the wildfire of August 8th, 2023 could learn about resources and available available resources that the county has, as part of the $1.6 billion. And I think that a lot of emphasis is where it should be on West Maui. And so I wanted to pull a meeting together so that upcountry residents could learn about what resources are available to us through that money that came through the federal government. And and then we have the storm, right? So I don't know if the meeting will change a little bit, but we're pulling together the resources for people who would actually, be available to answer questions and then to give reports. I was also going to invite Kula Hospital because I know that the Kula Hospital had to close down. And we've already heard about the patients that had to be moved and everything. So maybe that wouldn't be necessary at that time of, on Monday, March 30th. But yeah, so much is going on in our community.
Yes. I would like to give you something for that. And we used to do, we haven't done for a while, but we used to do at the Chamber a hurricane preparedness kit to teach people how to do it. And some groups like Red Cross teach, put hurricane preparedness kits in backpacks. And that's not a bad idea. It's just that because we often deal with flooding, we do it in a plastic tub. That we have a small kit that you can put in the corner of your closet, and because the tub is like over 14 inches tall, you've got 12 inches of flooding where you can still not impact your kit.
That's a good idea.
But I can prepare for that meeting a handout that you could give to people on how, the contents of, and it packs really well in there. I might even have some pictures, but how to have a kit. And it's a kit that lasts for several days. So it would take you over the weekend.
What kind of things are in it?
It includes everything. It includes a radio, so a radio that you can crank as well as a solar-powered radio. It includes different tools that you need in an emergency. It includes toilet paper and paper towels and food and all sorts of things, little rain jackets and, emergency-type rain jackets and things. It's just meant to be something that will get you through, for 2 to 3 days. Excuse me. 2 to 3 days. But it's one of those grab and go. And of course, it should take care of a couple for 2 to 3 days. And then if you have a bigger family, you might want a bigger tub or, 2 of them. But it's also something that fits well in the trunk of your car, so you can just kind of keep it there or in your closet nearby your door. So it's grab and go. Yeah, but I'll put something together. We used to charge a nominal fee for the expenses, just to put the kits, help people build the kits and teach them how to pack it. And also, there's things about, how to take care of your pets, and there's things on that about
comprehensive.
Your baby, that, thinking through, because one of the issues that came up for us is, when power goes out, is a mother who needed to pump breast milk. And if the power's gone, then the electricity for the pump for the breast milk is not available. So things like that, things to help let people know. I mean, that's something new. That wasn't in my kit. I mean, that wasn't in my instructions. So we did have things about how to prepare for your infant or your children in that, as well as your pets. So I'll try and get you a handout for Monday.
Okay, let's put that together, and I would, I want to see it. So let's work on that after the show, Pam, and then maybe we can have samples or something. I don't know. Let's look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, and if I can make it, I might be able to even take a few minutes to show people, if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
I don't even know my calendar right now for that, but I'll look. I can definitely give you a sample kit, and I can definitely make sure that you've got the handout. And if I can be there, I'd be happy to join.
Yeah. So check your calendar. So that's 5:30 on March the 30th at the Hannibal Tavares Community Center is what we have scheduled, and then we're putting the resources together to speak. And if you think of anything, I love this idea though. We had a summer intern, and she actually did research on these to-go kits. And so we'll see what she had and what you have, and we'll see, let's put something together. I don't know. Well, yeah, we'll see. But that's valuable information.
And the other thing she might do for that meeting too is also look at, some samples of generators you can buy. I mean, some of them are not cheap. I think the one my daughter bought was over $1,000, but it would last for 12 or more hours. And of course, it depends on it's an electric generator though, so you charge it in advance, which is why. So there's all sorts of things with gas, and you want to look at how many things you need to plug into it, and what kinds of things you plug into it, because that will impact whether it's gas or electricity. But again, we're seeing more of this, and of course, we're warned that we're going to continue to see more of this. So I think the more we can do, and the storm before this, where Lahaina was out for like a day and a half of power, was a time when a friend of mine and her husband were visiting from Seattle, so they stayed with us several days, and then went out to the west side and stayed at a hotel, and all those hotels had power down for like a day and a half. And coming from the high-tech world in the tech park where Tack and I used to work together, we had generators out there, big generators, because we held in one of our buildings at the tech park the front end of the supercomputer. So it used to be my job and our maintenance person's job to constantly check on the generators and make sure we have backup power. And to get backup power to the hotels for all those floors and all those guests would be just a huge expense. But can we look at ways where you take care of a couple of floors where I know they were scrambling, and one of my friends said, I think all the hotels learned how important coffee was because all those guests were like dying for coffee. And of course, they were working hard to create cell phone banks so that people could, charge their phones and reach out to people.
Yeah, that's a biggie. Yeah,
that's a biggie. Make travel arrangements and So, I mean, I think again, as a community, we've had some experiences of late that it's time to really put together some meetings to assess, community-wide with different groups coming in and different regions and what their experience was, what Hana's experience is, with the flooding. What are the best practices that we've seen? How do we mobilize people in the community? As I mentioned, people were volunteering to go out and help clear roads and cut things down and kind of move what they could to just open things up. But how can we more actively maybe have people in regions? And for example, my mom runs the Pukalani Community Association, and we had a problem with the seating shelters outside the school in Pukalani Elementary School. It was just overrun with brush, where the kids would sit under a shelter while they waited for the bus. And we now have an amazing man who volunteers his time, doesn't want anything from it. People have offered him things. They've even wanted to give him an award for his service to constantly clear the brush away from that shelter where the kids.
I remember that. And he was, I was there at that meeting where your mother was trying to honor him. And told us the story that you're saying, and this is recently, everybody, that he wasn't there. He said, I don't need that. But
he didn't want
it on
to
his own.
Yeah, and he continues to do that. But
your mother is like that too.
To people, that we, if we know of those people that we can count on, and in our communities, and of course we do, but sometimes they're serving, in our neighborhood, we're a pretty organized neighborhood. We all work together in disasters, and we're very fortunate. We all get along. We all know each other. But I was talking to somebody in Kihei. Of course, Kihei got a lot of this storm, and they were saying that a lot of the neighbors didn't know each other. A lot of new people had moved in, but they were getting to know each other over the disaster. As those who've lived there longer, we're reaching out and helping. But I think this shows us it's a good time to kind of reassess and come together and find people who, we can have captains. And, we used to have a lot of effort that was done under Neighborhood Watch, right? Yeah. When we were talking about Neighborhood Watch. So get back to some of these things that unite our community, bring people together, and Neighborhood Watch is not only great for safety, but also, if we get back to that concept especially in emergency and resource sharing and things that we could do to help each other, I think would be awesome.
Yeah, and so at this point, I want to share that what's also happening for Molokai, I got a call from Kiari Lawrence, and she's organizing for Molokai, the Kona Low Storm support for Molokai. And I think, well, before we got on the show, I heard a radio announcement from your station talking about this drive. And so at Kahului Shopping Center along Kahumanu Avenue by Burger King, there's going to be a trailer and collecting supplies to send to Molokai next week, Monday. And if anybody wants to donate, the supplies that they're asking for is for Molokai, from the Kona Low Storm impact. So they're looking for coolers, wet, dry vacs, propane tanks, air mattresses, generator, gas cards. They have Rawlings gas station there, right? Wheelbarrows, rubber bands, gloves, mosquito coils, first aid kits, water bottles, trash bags.
Is there a website, Yuki, so that I'm sure a lot of our drive people won't be able to remember the whole list, but is there a place we can go?
There's a scan. Oh, you know what? I don't know. I think there's probably a phone number. But anyway, I'm sorry. I don't have a. Yeah, sorry. It doesn't make sense to read out all these things. But I was surprised that, the impact is bigger than what we're experiencing here. So there's a community effort going on there. And Stacy Crivello, remember our former council member?
Yes.
She's involved with this too with her homesteaders. I got a call from her yesterday, and they've been receiving, the Coast Guard has been taking over food and supplies to Molokai, and she's been doing distribution at a hub. So there's a lot going on Molokai, and if people can donate, that's great.
I love that. Can you ask the county to put that up on their website, on the front page of their website?
Okay. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, let's ask the county to put that on the front page of their website so that people can find that. So for our listeners, if we can get it up there, because of course they've gone through a heck of a lot with this storm, so that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about. I know we kind of with all going on, but I think this was really an important discussion given what's been going on and continuing to go on when we thought we were going to subside today. But let's talk a little bit. I know, we had you come on today to kind of talk about Bill 9. We're getting into the budget season. You've had concerns about the impacts of Bill 9. And let's talk about Bill 9 and, again, as budget chair and gearing up for this year's budget at a time when we're doing a lot of work at the state legislature, and I'm sure the council is too. It's a tight year. It's a really tight year for finances. The state is looking for money. And I know you've had a lot of concerns on what the budgetary impacts would be on Bill 9. So share with us your perspective and kind of talking about how do we move forward from here given what's occurring. And I'd love to learn more about, we'll talk about some housing too and what's coming up because that's so critical for our people. So let's start with the budgetary perspective on Bill 9.
Yeah, so, budget is coming up on Wednesday, the 25th. By charter, we'll be receiving the mayor's proposed budget. And so what happens, listening audience, from the 25th, we get the details and the program budget from the mayor. And from there, we have all the way up till June 10th to come up with a final proposed budget, approved final proposed budget for this new fiscal year, which is July 1, 2026 through June 30th of 27. So we do this every year. I just wanted to mention before, we talk about Bill 9 that we'll be out again in all the residency areas. So we'll have community meetings where we, the council members, will come to you in Pukalani, and then we go to Paia, Hana, Kihei, Lahaina, Molokai, Lanai, and then Kahului and Wailuku will be at the county building on Thursday, I think, of April I don't know, April, whatever that date is, April 16th or April 15th. Sorry, my calendar is not here.
That's all right.
So the last community meeting we have is in the chambers for Kahului and Wailuku. And so we do that. We'll be there, and we open up at 6:00 p.m. in the different districts, and we come to you, and we appreciate the different organizations and community members who come and tell us what are the problems in your district that we need to maybe put some emphasis on for the county of Maui. And we hear all kinds of things and very impactful. We appreciate MEO who shows up and talks about the different programs that they do. And they're very organized, but organizations like that, as well as we hear from the schools, of different things that they're doing, the robotics or even their automotive department. We heard from King Kekalike High School, and we helped them last year. So it's really a variety of things that goes on, and we hear from the teachers and the students, and we listen. So. And last year we even included in our final budget the residency area meeting summaries so that you can see what they said and what we did. So I wanted to mention that is really important. Come out and when we do budget every day from April 1st all the way through the ending of the month, we can take testimony so people can come and testify on our budget bill. And testify on anything. You have 3 minutes, like you always do, to testify and tell us what you want to share as far as budgetary items. And then we also hear from the departments. They come and testify and tell us what their budget needs are that didn't make the budget, probably. So we will hear from the departments also, or they'll tell us what is the emphasis for what's in their budget that they want to make sure that we don't cut out. So it's both sides. So that I just want to share that. I really want people to come and testify. And if you don't make it and you want to send written testimony, it's Maui County, MauiCounty.us/agendas is, come and testify and let us know what you think. Impact of Bill 9. So Bill 9, as you all know, and Pam, you probably can explain this because you've been there really at the front line, on top of this, and you even did your own survey about the impact of Bill 9. But Bill 9 is also called the Minatoya TVR bill, and Minatoya was a corp counsel, and so his effort was named, and we call it the Minatoya list for apartments that are A1, A2 zone, and you're allowed to do short-term vacation rentals. So there's about 6,500 units that were impacted primarily in West Maui and South Maui, and which is Lahaina and Kihei. The predominant ones, I think there was one in Molokai and one in Hana, of people organizations that were then impacted that would no longer be able to do short-term vacation rentals. And that was, what the bill was about, was to take away that land use, and to change it all to long-term rental. And the bill passed in December, and it's now law, and it'll be taken into effect on West Maui in 2029, and then in 2030 for South Maui, 2027 and 29 for the two different areas, when that use would be then impacted, and the units then, or properties then that were allowed to do short-term vacation rental would no longer. And that was a concern because the budgetary impact, according to the UHERO report, is about $60 million in real property tax losses during that period. The impact then is what does that mean, right? So what that means is that if these units are no longer able to participate in short-term vacation rental and participate with that level of use for real property tax, the $65 million then would impact our services like fire, police, our basic services that we need to, by charter, we are mandated to provide for our residents, and it could, as well as our general excise tax and TAT, transit accommodation tax, would also be lost. So there's huge impacts in the future, and we need to, plan for that at that time. But what are we doing is a question. So I'm looking forward to see what's going to be in the budget that's coming to us on the 25th, which is this coming Wednesday, and tomorrow. Wow. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah,
we
tomorrow.
will.
I understand, given all this weather.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's already done, and we just haven't seen the budget yet. So what's in there? What's in the budget for the impact of this loss of revenue, anticipated loss of revenue in the upcoming fiscal years? Because we need to plan now, and as well as the loss of general excise tax and the TAT. So it kind of has huge implications. We're also, as you know, Pam, trying to pass the new zoning, which was a recommendation from the temporary investigative group, chaired by member Hodgins. There was a temporary investigative group that was put together with council members, 4 total, and looked at all of the properties that were impacted and came up with a recommendation to create this new zoning of H3 and H4 hotel category, which would allow these properties recommended by the TIG through member Hodgins to continue the use of that they were, right? So short-term vacation rentals and the uses that they were, land uses that they were allowed. But we'll see if we can get that passed. It would be a council-initiated zoning, which we've never done before. So that would happen for those 4,500 properties, and the H3, H4 zoning, which will come before us, after the planning commissions are done with their review of the H3, H4 zoning, and then the council will discuss it and, move forward.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because we're talking about budgetary impacts, is that this issue, which was, people were warned about it, but it's happening. And again, it's something that we also have to contend with, is the fact that lawsuits, I understand, have been filed, and that means that the county also has to spend money fighting lawsuits. Can you? Yeah. I know you can't talk about lawsuits, I understand you can't talk about that, but is that accurate to say that lawsuits have been filed and that the county is having to spend time on that?
Yes. So far, we know of 2 lawsuits that were filed, and one did come before the council. The chair of that committee is Kaunoe Batangan for the Great Committee, which handles all lawsuits. But so one did come before us, and we're not done discussing it. I think it's going to come up again after budget is done, because Corp Council said that there was no urgency. So we're going to take it up at that time, according to the meeting. But yes, there are. That was part of the concern as we were, going through the process of looking at Bill 9, the law itself, and trying to do amendments. And we were encouraged to just keep the bill as is, so that it's more defensible and not amend it. So here the lawsuits are coming, and we'll see what's happening. Yeah, I agree with you that it's better to spend money wisely rather than, spending taxpayer dollars defending lawsuits that we were being threatened all through the, many testifiers that came through over 3 housing land use meetings that, when you think of it, it was Chair Tasha Kama, who was chairing the meetings for the housing and land use. as this bill was going through the council, and we had really long meetings, which she did all of them, over a period of time. And so sad, right? Because now Member Kama is gone. But those were, that was her liana basically as we did these bills. But yeah, we were threatened at that time, or people were telling us that, we're going to be suing you and whatever. And here we are. We, true to their word, they have filed lawsuits.
Well, and I want to say, I know often when we talk about these things, it sounds very malicious, but I also want to point out that given so many things, I mean, we learned how many people, local folks, were tied to these units and even owned some of these units, and we learned and heard the stories of, again, that use had been codified more than once in terms of allowing people to have that short-term rental use.
Yeah.
So it's been a long-standing issue, but they basically said, this is a change and a taking. And for us, one of the challenges, of course, was doing the housing survey that we did to see, and we didn't ask if it was coming at the time of the short-term rental bills, but it came about because everybody kept saying, people will want and fit in these units and don't tell us how to live. We need to look at options. And of course, coming out of a wildfire where so much housing was lost and understanding the grief that people were going through, we decided, well, we need to understand not only, also because the Chamber has been a champion in its housing and economy every day, all day, and it's 1A, 1B on any given moment, we thought, well, we better look at what is the housing they desire. What is it they're looking for? What can they afford to pay? And then we've gone through that, so I won't go through all the stats, but the bottom line was a high level of people indicated that those units wouldn't be appropriate for a number of reasons, both in terms of, we talked about high costs because of what HOAs and special assessments do that make them unaffordable. But in addition to that, it was the living conditions that we were targeting, not necessarily the finances, but in our survey, the living conditions. And it just didn't work for maybe having children and kapuna, maybe having, needing parking for 2 cars, not just one, how they wanted to use it, be able to garden or have space for the kids to play. And, just so many rules around HOAs, but just closet space was huge, kitchen space was huge, just a lot of different things that made it not really work. And so, that kind of takes me to, so we were advocating and saying, here are these stats, and this is a challenge, right? But now, so we're here and we're seeing some of the things as people, with some of these lawsuits, people are trying to say that this is a use that we've counted on, and this is a use we could legally do, and so they feel like it's a taking, and so we've got the lawsuits. And we've got data that says not everybody, yes, in a crisis state, maybe that sounds more attractive. Of course, anybody would say that if you're homeless, that's going to be more attractive anyway. But the question wasn't whether it met an emergency situation. The question was a long-term situation. Now I've been getting calls of people saying, well, the mayor's talking about houses, there's quite a few units in the pipeline that the county is working on. And so did we even need to do that, right? Did we need to go through all of this when so many things are in the pipeline? Have you been looking at, housing units in the pipeline? And, of course, there's questions, of course, on housing units in the pipeline. We always talk about affordable and attainable. And of course, we all understand that those numbers are high and not necessarily affordable and attainable for all, which is something the Chamber has been working on for a long time and continues to work on. But have you had a chance to, now people are saying, well, given, the mayor's State of the County address, what is the real number of how many units are in the pipeline? And given some of the numbers that have been shared, is that accurate? And if so, did we need to go through all this to meet the needs of the community?
That is a good point. That people are calling you, and or your members are noticing this. So, based upon the data that I got from the Kama'aina Housing Projected Housing Development, the County of Maui, mauicounty.gov website for 2023 to 2030, it has a pretty good graphics on where all these houses are coming from, and so the housing built, housing projected. So housing built, it says 2,016 units, affordable housing at 880 units. And so right there is 2,016 units. And then non-recovery projected, so it's all other places out of West Maui, is another 3,235 units, affordable units.
Say that for me again, Yuki. I'm sorry, say that one number for me again.
3,355. Oh, 3,335, sorry. I put my glasses on.
Okay.
Units for non-recovery projected. And there, it is affordable units is 2,070. And in this list is, Kehalani Wailuku, Aikanaha Phase 1 and 2. So these are Kuikahi Village. There are units in here that Waikapu Ventures, is Wailuku Country Town. So it's all outside of West Maui. So there's projected 335 units, of which 2,070 units are affordable. So there's a impact. There is a lot of projects that, through my lifetime of being in council this is my 10th year, we approved all of these projects because they were either happened during the Victorino administration, Arakawa administration, and went through its approval process. Pam, you know how long that takes, right?
Yes,
and then, yes, and then, so this is in the pipeline of to be built. But there's a lot. And then also recovery projected projects. Affordable housing is recovery projected is 1,719 units, of which 769 are affordable. And it has, Hale Maha'olu, Front Street Apartments, Weinberg Courtyard, Komohana Hale, which we were all recently involved to make sure they got their insurance money and able to use it for rebuild. Lahaina Surf, CDBTD are single family rebuild. So those houses that went up, immediately for temporary housing, there's 250 of them. But this has a comprehensive view, and so you are right, Pam. The question is, then why did we have to do Bill 9 if we have all these houses ready to go? That is a question.
Well, and I really appreciate you looking into this and sharing this because, again, as we talked about earlier, right, Bill 9 is West Maui's 2027, which is 3 years from, the projection of all these houses being built of 2030. And then, of course, South Maui is 2029. So, it's interesting. And I think where it really came up most recently is, and unfortunately I couldn't be there that night. I had a conflict. Have been reading through because it was published, the Mayor's State of the County Address. But after that, people are saying, timeline-wise, right, why did we have to go through all of this upheaval in our community with the potential revenue loss? Not potential, with the revenue loss. It's passed, so with the revenue loss. And again, the sense of, is that really going to meet the community's needs for where they really want to live and the kinds of things they want to live in? And again, a good portion of this is also, as you mentioned, outside of West Maui, outside of where a lot of the, where the majority of houses were lost. And we know that people say, we want to live where we want to live. And we understand that, of course. But it does sound like there is a number of units right there as well. So I think it's something that I don't know. I'm sure to some degree some of this will be discussed in the budgetary process. I think the key thing is, right, always, at least from the Chamber's perspective, is prioritizing housing, which I know, again, Tasha, my dear friend and yours, and a dear friend to many, her loss was, just so unexpected and just disheartening for the work, not only who she was and the friend she was to all, but also the pivotal work she was doing. But how do we keep on track, this budgetary session and moving forward after, again, more challenges with flooding and new challenges caused by the disaster of, I'm going to call it a disaster because these past few weeks have been wild and there's been a lot of damage. But how do we keep housing on track? Because, again, these units are desperately needed. And people often don't understand that to get to affordable, you have to offset it with market unless the county's going to pay more. And that's an option. And of course, that's an option that the Chamber has proposed, that the county and state could invest more in infrastructure or land purchases to help bring down the cost of these projects, because when landowners have to wait years and years and years to get things through, they're paying mortgages on that land, which is very high, and all of that cost has to get passed on. So to the degree our government, county or state, can support infrastructure or land purchases to help bring down the cost, that helps. But permitting is also, with those huge delays, a key driver in the cost of housing. And so the speed task force at the state level was trying to work on that and expedite things. 4-Leaf, after the wildfires, is making inroads, but can we invest more to speed it up? I'm not sure. But how do we ensure that, that we meet this 2030 timeline for all of these units that will take care of a considerable chunk of needed housing units?
Yeah. I wish we do that, by looking at the list of projects, like one that's very dear to me is Kuikahi Villages, 105 units, and it's right down, like you're driving down from Wailuku Heights, on Kuikahi is around that area. And that one has been going through, trying to get it approved and redesigned so that it fits our changing economy. It was proposed 100% affordable, I don't know how many years ago, but several years. And with the economy changing and the interest rates changing, it had to be, re-envisioned. So we'll see. I hope it does come before us for council approval for affordable housing fund. So that's still not built, but it's on this list for non-recovery projected to be completed by 2030. So, but it has projects like that. The POA Phase 1, which is in the high-tech park, Pam, as you and I know it. But it's, and there's, it's a project that, that is being built for that community they're building out there, which you will be very happy to hear about all the things going on there for the community. Is 175 units, but there's projects in here like that, which is listed to be completed by 2030, and I hope it does, as well as the Waikapu Country Town, community that it is. I think that was like 1,200 units a while ago when we approved it. So there's projects like that are listed. So we'll see. I'm here to make it happen, just as you are. So I appreciate that. And I know that to be true, that you've been fighting for this for a long time. And we really appreciate your leadership on that. We have to move these things forward. Our community is hurting. And I remember a quote from a gentleman who said, if people were getting, there's a lot of frustration over housing to the point that when we were talking about Bill 9 and some of the, people were just demonizing some of these property owners, and it was getting ugly. But, I really appreciated one of the testifiers saying, if we have housing, we'll have more aloha. And to me,
that gets at the heart of our community, and we really need to have housing for all. And we need to get on with it, and we need to really start, working to, broadening the reach. I know the council's working hard on it. I know Noe is chairing housing. It's really critical that as we look to these units and we look to the data, and I'm thrilled. I've got to say, I'm thrilled that the county and the housing department has put this out so all can see. Everybody can track this and be watching, because if we don't have if we don't have the metrics and understand what could be coming up, right, and we don't have the tracking of how long, what the timeline is and when it's projected to be possible, and we're not all following that metrics to hold people accountable and say this needs to be happening. And in the absence of this, we need to be spending more time and energy. I think of the long process on Bill 9. Where we could have been spending more time and energy on how to move all this housing forward.
Yeah, the lawsuits, that is concerning, right? And it's happening. Did not need to happen. But anyway, I hear you. I really appreciate, Pam, your advocacy and what the chamber is doing. That's very interesting, the comment that you got back after the State of the County address, where people are saying, okay, if we have all this housing, then why do we have to do Bill 9? That's a bigger question. Also on Bill 9, I just want to say, because you're the chamber, is that the kind of other stats that we received is that besides the real property tax loss and the GET and TAT losses, it also talks about jobs.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Yuki, but I would love to have you on again, because we would like to talk about jobs. And it definitely, Bill 9 did talk about the loss of 1,900 jobs. So let's talk about that again. Thank you for going through the budget process, telling people how they can get involved after storm damage. Thank you, Yuki.
Thank you for allowing me to do that. Okay. Talk to you later.
Talk to you soon. Thank you for all the work you do.
Okay.
Take care. Aloha. And to all who are listening, thank you for joining us. I hope you learned a lot today. And please join us again next Tuesday, same time, same place. In the meantime, stay warm, stay dry, be safe, protect your family, be prepared. Blessings and aloha.